UniFi UNAS Pro runs on Linux operating system. It uses identity endpoint to manage users. To do file sharing, it uses Samba service. So there are already 3 different types of users: identity user, the Linux user, and the Samba user, right? So in UniFi network controller, you can easily map the user to a so-called file services and time machine credentials. But when you do backup, for example, in the left side UNAS Pro, if I go to setting backup, I can easily select another UNAS Pro as the backup destination. For example, I choose the right side UNAS Pro. Then see, it's automatically connected, and then the backup will be automatically completed. The system even never bother asking you about user ID and the password to access the right side UNAS Pro. If I SSH to the right side, the backup destination, if I go to the backup folder, I can see the file is owned by HZ2, which is the user I mapped in the right side. So which means the left side UNAS Pro somehow first automatically connect to the right side without even asking about credentials. Secondly, the destination files are under the right side UNAS Pro's mapped user ID instead of under the left side UNAS Pro's ID. There's some magic happening under the hood. So that's the purpose I want to make this video. I will dig deeper, go to the backend of the UNAS Pro to understand how the system map the identity user to Linux user to Samba user, and how the backup can be magically accomplished. Okay, let's get started. To have a fresh start, let me reset the backup destination UNAS Pro. Factory reset. Confirm. Okay, the reset is done. I have already connected to the UNAS Pro. You can see now there's only one user. It's me, and it's a admin user. In the right side, the user setting, you can see for assignment is not enabled yet. So let's see, in this very initial situation, what are the Unix users and the Samba users. So in the lower part of the screen, I have 2 terminals. I will use them to SSH to the same UNAS Pro. From time to time, I'm going to use them to show you different things. Let me connect to the system. Let me first show the user information from the operating system level. At this moment, only one user catches my eye. It's this last one. See the name? It's UI6. It's a long string. See, it has its own home directory. And here it says this user cannot be used to log in. I note down this user in the diagram as well. So this is a Linux user. We don't know what it is for yet, but let's continue looking. Then in the right side, let me show this user's group information. Okay, it's in 2 groups, UniFi drive and UniFi drive no Samba. So I also note down the information here. We checked the identity level, the operating system level. Then in the left side, in fact, there's another user. It's for UniFi drive backup. See, I'm talking about this particular user. Just from the name, it seems it's related to backup, right? Then in the right side, let me check its group information as well. It belongs and only belongs to one group, UniFi drive. Now let's go to the Samba setting. Go to etc Samba, and let me show you this file, smb config. Let's skip the global part. See, the first square brackets, this specifies the share folder. So at this moment, from the identity perspective, I only have one shared folder, which is my own user's personal drive, right? And here you can find the path. So this percentage lowercase u means the Samba user ID. At this moment, because I haven't done any assignment, so I do not have a Samba user ID yet. However, if I go to the all files, see, I do have a personal drive already. So then at this moment, how Samba handles this shared drive? To find it out, let me go to the physical folder of my personal drive. So let me go to the mount point for my volume. It's volume 1. Then you can see the root folder .srv is hidden. Then let me go to UniFi drive. Go to homes. Why I go to this path? See the left side? I want to follow this path specified in the SMB configuration. Okay, see now there's one and only one folder with this name. What's this? This is the Linux level user. We find out the UI SYS. If we relate the left side SMB configuration and the right side physical folder, we may draw a wrong conclusion, which is even before I do the assignment on the UI, my user ID already has access to Samba. It is using the UI SYS user. The reason for me to believe the conclusion is wrong is because on one hand, you can see from the UI, I can already upload file to my personal drive. And in the lower part SSH session, I can even see the file under this UI SYS user ID. But on the other hand, if I run a command which is pdb edit, it's used to show the Samba user information. If I list the Samba users, see, there's one and only one Samba user. It is UniFi drive backup. It is not this UI SYS user, which means at this moment, if you try to connect to the server from a Samba client, you won't be able to access this folder. So at this moment, the access to this personal drive is completely managed by the user interface. It's not done through Samba. In fact, it's directly done by the UniFi software through the UI SYS user internally instead of through Samba. So that's why on one hand we can access the drive already, but on the other hand, whatever access we can do is not through Samba. So this is a situation before we do the assignment to assign a user ID to my UniFi identity user. Okay, then let's move on. Now let me start assignment. Let me map the existing admin user from the UniFi admin user, my own ID, map it to a Linux/Samba user ID. Click on the only user, then go to settings. Under the assignment, let me enable it. Then here, let me use ID HZ2, give it a super secured password. Then apply changes, confirm. Okay, the assignment is done. Now in the lower part SSH sessions, let me show the current user information from the OS level. See the change? Remember before the assignment in the initial state, we only have a UI SYS user, right? See now the HZ2 appears and the original UI SYS is gone. And interestingly, the HZ2 user inherited the home folder from the original UI SYS user. And the new user still has this no login setting. As indicated in the diagram, so what the system really does in the assignment is it deleted the original UI SYS Linux level user and create a new one, but the new user has all the settings the same as the previous UI SYS. So remember, initially we said even before you do the assignment, you can already do some file copying, right? And then we assume it's done by using the UI SYS, right? This user basically is an admin user. What I just did was to assign my own admin user with the new ID. So it makes sense the new ID inherit the previous one because now the previous one is not needed anymore. The official admin user already has an official assignment. Okay, so this step makes sense. This is just from the Linux user level. In the right side, let me show you the Samba level user. pdb edit. See now, we have a new Samba level user, it's HZ2. So now, officially, we have a SMB user, which is HZ2. It also makes sense. So that's what I marked here in the diagram. So after this assignment, the HZ2 is enabled to use SMB, and it has this folder as the personal shared folder. And at this moment, I should be able to access my personal drive from other machines. Then when it comes to the existing UniFi drive backup, nothing's changed. So this is the status after we finish the very first assignment on my own admin user. Then let's move on to the next step. Let's create a brand new user. This time, let me use a regular user instead of admin. Go to user management, create new user. Here I say John Doe for email. Then for assignment, enable it. Let me give it a name, JD, password, then create. Okay, we have the new user created. In the SSH, show the current OS level users. You can see the new user JD, right? It's also no login. Then in the right side, if I show you the new users groups, you can see it's only in one group, which is UniFi Drive. Then if I want to show the Samba level users, PDB edit, now we have a new user, it's JD. So everything is as expected. In the left side, if I show you the SMB config file again, you can see in fact nothing's changed. It's the exact same file as the initial state. No matter how many new users you create, the config file is the same for personal drive. The reason is this shared drive is dynamic, is per user. See the %U. So as long as you have a new Samba user, the user will have its own personal drive. That's how it works. So that's why here you only see one personal drive, but in fact, my user ID and the JD user ID see their own different personal drives. Okay, another thing I want to mention is, see here, the valid users, only if the user belongs to this group. See the @ sign? It means this is a group name. In the right side, you can see we just confirmed the JD user is part of the UniFi drive, right? That also makes sense. This is the simplest step. Everything's expected. Now let's move on to the very last step about backup. That's where all the magic happened. Let's dig into that. Since we are talking about backup, of course, we need to have a source and a target, right? On the screen, the UI you see now is not for the UNAS Pro we just configured. Instead, it is for the source UNAS Pro. You can tell from the different name, right? At this moment, this source UNAS Pro has only one user, which is the admin user. So from the UniFi identity perspective, it has the exact same user as the other UNAS Pro. However, just to differentiate these two systems, I purposely assign the user to a different Linux/Samba username. As you can see, for this user under assignment, I give it name HZ. Remember, for the destination UNAS Pro, the user assignment it is HZ2, right? That's the difference. Later, we will use the name difference to tell which user ID is used in the backend. So this is the source user assignment. Again, in the same source system, if I go to backups, then let me have a new test backup job. Here, let me select data to backup, a random folder. Then the destination is what we really want to look into. So see here, it has three options. In this video, we are only interested in the first one, remote UNAS. Remember, we just did the factory reset on the destination UNAS Pro, right? Of course, it's not connected to the source UNAS Pro yet. Let me click the drop down. The system automatically lists this UNAS Pro. Why is that? Because both UNAS Pros are under the same owner, the same user, and I enabled remote access. So the system knows I have this UNAS Pro, right? That's why it automatically lists this UNAS Pro, the destination one. Okay, choose it. See, it says connecting, and then server connected. It didn't ask me about username and the password at all. But just based on the time, the spinning, it seems the system did something under the hood. So let's see what it did. In the lower part SSH sessions, remember they are still connected to the destination UNAS Pro. Now in the left side, let me show the current Linux users. See what's the difference? We have a brand new user. So similarly, it's a super long username, but see, this time it's UISHD. Remember, initially we had a user, it's called UISYS something, right? This time it's SHD. Later you will see SHD stands for shadow. So this is a shadow user. But it's whose shadow? Let's continue looking. All of a sudden, we have one and only one new user. We didn't do it. The system automatically did it. Then in the right side, let me show the current Samba users. See now, this new UISHD user, it is a Samba user as well. And let me see what's the group for this user from the Linux operating system level. Let me copy this super long name, then show the group information. It's part of 3 groups: UniFi Drive, UniFi Drive No Policy, and UniFi Drive Samba Admin. Just in case you forget it already, let me show you the group information for my own ID. I am in UniFi Drive and UniFi Samba Admin. I am not under this UniFi Drive No Policy. Later you will see why the difference. So now we see from OS level, from Samba level, the system did something already. We are not done yet, because there is another important change, which is in the Samba config. So in the left side, let me show you the SMB config file again. On the surface, nothing's changed, but you may notice this special line already. We never looked into this because before this backup step, it's not effective. So that's why we never mention it. But this time, it is important already. Let me go to this folder. Let's see what's the shadow share configuration file. So in the right side, let me cd to that folder. You can see we only have one file, and the file has the new user's ID in it, which means this configuration file is specifically related to the backup, related to the new shadow user created by the system under the hood. So let's see what's inside it. You can see it's pretty simple. So the first part defined a shared drive. See, it is using my user's path, right? That's strange already. See these 2 lines, false user and valid users. So valid users means what users can be applied using this config, and only one user is qualified, which is the shadow user, right? And then see this line, false user, HZ2. So what these 2 lines really mean is, okay, if this user, the shadow user, log in, yes, it is allowed to access this path, but whatever this user does, it will be recorded on the OS level under my user ID. So this is why the user is called shadow user, because it is just a shadow of my user ID. If you compare the left side SMB config and the right side the shadow user config, there are 2 personal drive definitions. Then for this shadow user, will it have 2 personal drive shared folders? No, because you can see in the left side under the invalid users, it says the user cannot be in the UniFi Drive No Policy. Remember previously we confirmed the shadow user is in the UniFi Drive No Policy. That's why the left side configuration for personal drive doesn't apply to the shadow user. So after reading this one, you may realize how the system works when it comes to backup. From source system, the system of course will read data, right? When it tries to write data to the destination UNAS Pro, what it really does is it will use this shadow user, and the shadow user will pretend to be my user. Then everything it does will be under my name. The end result is it's like the system using my HZ2 user does the backup. You may wonder why the system works in that way, why it cannot directly use my user ID. That's also explainable because I own this HZ2. I set up the password for HZ2. UniFi doesn't know what's my password. But UniFi has the ability to create a shadow user. UniFi has complete control on the shadow user. Then the UniFi software can use this shadow user to pretend to be myself to do the backup. That's why when you do the backup, when you establish the backup, the system doesn't need any username password. And then once the backup is done, if you check the file ownerships, later we will do that, you will see that's under my name, under HZ2. Remember, we have talked about so much, we even haven't completed the backup task configuration yet. We are still in the middle of configuring the backup. But even that's the case, the system already completed so many secret things under the hood. Okay, so now let's proceed to finish the backup setting in the source system. When it comes to destination folder, let me choose personal drive. Remember, now I am in the source UNAS Pro, and here it only shows me personal drive. It doesn't tell me which user's personal drive, but you can guess very safely it is the admin user's personal drive, because we already see from the backend the system has the shadow user. The shadow user pretend is me, and the shadow user is the admin user. So let me choose it, select. Now I'm ready to create the task. Then it will ask me whether I want to create a task, then start the backup immediately. Then in the lower part SSH, let me quit VI. Then let me run the command smb status -s. I just want to show the current SMB status. So you can see this shadow user, it is connected already, but it's not doing anything. So then I will click the button to create and backup. Now let me run the same command. The system is doing the backup. All the sessions, they are under the shadow user ID. At this time, if I go to the shared folder from the OS level, so go to volume 1 SRV folder, then go to UniFi drive, then go to homes. Just based on the analysis on paper, the file should be copied to my own folder, right? My own personal drive. So that's why let me cd to HZ2. Then let me go to .data, because that's where my personal drive is. See, we have this folder name. The folder name is the source UNAS Pro's name and appended with the backup task name. And then see who owns this folder, HZ2. Even though all the file copying was done by the shadow user, once it's done from OS level, it seems everything was done by me, by HZ2. Okay, I believe after this detailed explanation, you are clear about how the backup happens and how the identity user, Linux user, Samba user, shadow user, how they work together and complete the seemingly magical backup process. If you are careful enough, you may notice the UniFi drive backup user is never used in the whole process. I assume it's used by other type of backups. Remember, we only covered from UNAS to another local UNAS, right? But there are other options when it comes to backup. But that's out of scope for this video. Okay, this is the end of the video. Thanks for watching.